Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is August the 4th, 2022, Thursday, August the 4th, the Thursday of the 18th week in Ordinary Time. It is a foggy morning this morning here on Long Beach Island, New Jersey. Hopefully it will be clear as the sun begins to rise a little bit more on the horizon. But today's readings for this Thursday of the 18th week in Ordinary Time, the 18th week of the year, continue Jeremiah. Here, God through Jeremiah basically speaks of a new covenant that God will now make with the remnant of Israel, that God will return from Babylon to Israel. Again, a covenant that will not be like the first covenant because God made that with people and they broke it very easily. And the understanding perhaps, might be that the covenant was very insular. The covenant was only about this chosen people, only about the tribes of Israel. It did not necessarily encompass all of creation. Now God speaks to Jeremiah, to Israel, about a covenant that will encompass all of creation. A covenant where everyone will not have to be taught about who God is, but everyone will just know who God is by the very nature of creation itself, by the very nature of our actions as people who have been created by God. Again, God repeats, I will be their God and you will be my people. They will be my people. The sense of relationship, the sense of connectivity, and that a God basically who remembers no longer all the faults and failings that human beings create and commit, because we will continue to do that always. There is really no way out of being able to continue to create all of these mistakes that we do. And yet it is God who basically helps us recognize the fact that there is more than just our faults and our failings. There's more than just our mistakes. There is a God who loves us and who brings us into relationship constantly and who never gives up on us and asks us never to give up on ourselves. It's an interesting contrast. It has no relation really with today's Gospel from Matthew, in which that question is asked of all the apostles, who do people say that I am? And Peter, of course, stands up with, you are the Messiah, you are the Son of God, you are the one who was chosen, the one who was meant to come into this world. And again, Jesus makes him the first pope in some ways. Actually, that does not happen, but Jesus makes him sort of the head of the apostles, the keys to the kingdom, gates of the netherworld, all those things that are written around the baldacchino in St. Peter's Basilica. Are given to celebrate Peter's confession of faith and how powerful he will be as the first leader of the Christian movement after Jesus' ascension. But it doesn't last long, because in the same breath as Matthew is writing, in the same paragraph as Matthew is writing these words in the Gospel, Jesus will predict that he has to go and undergo the passion, go to Jerusalem, undergo the passion, suffer and die and be raised. And Peter's the one who says, oh, no, not for you, Lord, especially not for the one who's going to make me first the apostles and the first pope. And Jesus basically turns to Peter and says, you are Satan, get out of my sight. So again, it's like this contrary absurdity, with what Peter confesses, and actually what it comes down to in the end is Peter kind of just making sure that he feathers his own nest, even though he's showing concern for his friend Jesus. But there's some ways that Peter wants that glory and that power. It will be given to him, but in a way perhaps that is not imaginable, in a way that he would not expect, in a way that is unlike the world's understanding of power and authority and control. Always important, again, for us to remember as a church that our leaders are never to act as the leaders of the world. They are never to act out of selfish concern. They are never to act out of concern more for the institution that is the church than for its people. Its people are the church, and how its people are treated and how they are respected and cared for is what matters in all who lead us within our church. To ignore that ignores God's commandment to love one another, ignores Christ's commandment to be of unity with one another, and it does nothing to further the reign of God on the earth. And may the Lord give you